All right, welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're going to be looking at mobile notary services, specifically in Eastern North Carolina.
Okay.
We've got a whole bunch of sources here,
Yeah.
listings, pricing, even some logistical stuff.
Yeah.
But what really kind of jumped out at me was the kinds of documents they work with. It's not just your typical real estate stuff. We're talking like declarations of common law union, travel consent forms, things like that.
Interesting. I don't think I've ever needed one of those notarized.
Yeah, I'm curious about those. Like,
Yeah.
who needs that and why? So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to unpack this whole mobile notary world, see how it all works, and maybe, figure out if it's something you might actually need.
Sounds good.
Right off the bat, one thing I saw was that they specialize in documents that are at least 4 pages long.
Okay. So longer documents.
What do you think? What's the significance of that?
Well, I guess that kind of suggests they're after a specific type of client, right? I mean, those longer documents usually mean more complex transactions,
Yeah.
like maybe more serious agreements,
Yeah.
maybe with higher stakes.
Okay.
Things like real estate closings or powers of attorney, that kind of stuff.
Makes sense. And they also seem to handle a lot of documents with multiple signatures.
Oh, really?
I see medical treatment consent forms, loan agreements, stuff like that. Things that usually need more than one person to sign off.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So if we think about that for a sec, getting a bunch of people together in one place at the same time to sign something important,
Right.
especially in Eastern North Carolina where things are kind of spread out.
Could be tough.
Yeah, so a mobile service that specializes in that kind of thing.
Could be really useful.
Yeah, super helpful. Okay, so we got these longer, more complex documents, often needing multiple signatures. But they charge a flat fee, $10 per signature, no matter how complicated the document is.
Sounds simple enough.
It does, right?
Yeah.
But let's think about it for a second. Let's say you're selling your house. You need 3 signatures on the closing documents.
Okay.
That's $30 right there. But on top of that, they charge 65 cents a mile for travel. So let's say you live 30 miles away.
Right.
That's $19.50 each way.
Oh, wow. So that's
Almost $70 total before they even get to the first signature.
that's more than double the initial fee.
Exactly. And another thing, they don't take checks, only electronic payments.
Interesting.
So you really got to factor in those travel costs, especially if you're far out or need a lot of signatures.
Definitely. And I wonder how their prices compare to regular notaries in the area.
Yeah.
Are they more competitive? Or is it just like the convenience of them coming to you that people are paying for?
It's a good question. And speaking of convenience, they'll meet you at a whole bunch of different places, like places of worship.
Places of worship.
Yeah. And hospital lobbies.
Huh. That's kind of a specific choice, isn't it?
It is, right. You think they're targeting particular
Yep.
types of people with those options?
Well, with the places of worship thing, maybe it's about making people comfortable. Some folks might feel more at ease in a religious setting.
That's true.
Or maybe it's just about finding spaces that are easy to get to and available,
Yeah.
within those communities.
Okay. And hospitals obviously make me think of situations that are, sensitive, time sensitive maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
Think about like medical directives
Right.
or powers of attorney.
Yeah.
Things you might need in a hurry if someone's health takes a turn for the worse.
Absolutely. And being right there in the hospital lobby shows they get that.
Yeah.
The urgency, the emotions that come with those situations.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to be discreet and kind,
Yeah.
especially during a tough time.
I like that. It's interesting how those choices of location kind of give you a peek into what their clients might need and want. But it's not just the locations. They also offer, get this, express document delivery services
What?
and private investigation services.
Whoa, that's a weird combo.
It is, right?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, is this like connected to their main notary business? Or are they just trying to branch out, do a little bit of everything?
It's definitely an interesting mix. Maybe they're trying to be a one-stop shop for like all your legal and administrative needs.
Yeah.
Imagine you're selling your house and you need documents delivered quickly.
Right?
Or maybe you need a background check as part of some legal agreement.
Okay.
It's all right there.
It does make you wonder if there's something specific about Eastern North Carolina that makes those extra services, more in demand.
Yeah, it could be the demographics or even the legal landscape of the area.
It makes me think about the regulations, too.
Oh, yeah.
Are there special licenses or rules about offering those services alongside notary work?
Right. And how do they make sure everything's ethical?
Exactly. Lots to think about there. All right, let's get down to the details. ID requirements. They're pretty strict about needing a valid government-issued photo ID.
Well, yeah, that's pretty standard, isn't it?
It is.
It's super important for preventing fraud,
Exactly.
making sure those legal documents are the real deal.
And they're very specific about what needs to be on that ID. A signature, physical description, photo, expiration date. No exceptions.
Yeah, it's not just about proving who you are.
Right.
It's about creating a clear record that links you to that document.
Okay.
It protects everyone involved, from legal problems down the road.
So bottom line, make sure your ID is up to date and has everything they need.
For sure.
No cutting corners.
Yep.
They also require appointments, and they have like a million ways to contact them and pay. Cash App, Venmo, Apple Cash, PayPal, debit, credit.
Wow, that's a lot of options.
It is. I guess they're really trying to make things easy for their clients.
Seems like it.
You can book an appointment, pay however you want, and they come straight to you.
It's all about convenience.
Exactly. And for a lot of people, that's a huge selling point. All right, so we've covered a lot. Types of documents, pricing, logistics.
Yeah, we've barely scratched the surface. But before we go any further, I think we need to zoom out a bit.
Okay.
Look at the bigger picture.
Right.
What does this mobile notary service, with all its quirks and its focus on specific needs, tell us about how the role of notaries is changing in today's world?
That is a fantastic question, and it's one we'll dig into right after the break. Stay tuned. We've been digging into the details of this mobile notary service in eastern North Carolina. They're portraying the types of documents they work with, how they really focus on making things convenient.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how they've carved out a niche for themselves.
It makes you think about how this fits into the bigger picture, the notary world, right?
You're spot on. It's not just about one business. Mobile notary services are popping up everywhere these days.
Yeah, you're right.
And it seems like they're really adapting to how our society is changing.
Right.
Everything's on demand now.
It is. It's like that old image of a notary tucked away in some office is gone.
Exactly.
Now they're coming to you wherever you are.
It makes you wonder how much technology is changing things.
Yeah, for sure.
On the one hand, it's what allows for these mobile services to exist, scheduling appointments, processing payments.
Right.
But then on the other hand, you've got electronic signatures, online notarization platforms.
It does make you wonder, are traditional notaries on their way out?
That's the big question, isn't it?
If I can sign something online, why even bother with a notary? Is there still a reason to do it the old-fashioned way?
It's a hot topic, for sure. There are definitely pros and cons to both.
Okay.
Technology offers convenience, no doubt. But there are still those concerns about security and making sure things are authentic.
Okay, you don't want someone forging your signature or something.
Exactly. And in some cases, having that in-person notary might still be necessary, or at least preferred.
So maybe we're heading towards a system where some things are digital and others still need that face-to-face stamp of approval.
It's definitely possible. Imagine choosing between a traditional notary, a mobile one, or an online platform, depending on what you need.
So for our listener, what's the takeaway here with all these options?
I think the main thing to remember is that notarization is changing, but the reason behind it is still the same.
To prevent fraud.
Right. It's all about making sure documents are legitimate and protecting everyone involved. Whether it's digital or in person, that's the goal.
So it's not like the digital world has completely replaced notaries.
Nope, not at all.
You got to think about the specific document, the level of security you need, and what's most convenient for you.
And remember, it's not always an either situation.
Okay.
You might use a traditional notary for one thing, a mobile notary for another, and even an online platform when it makes sense.
Gotcha. So it's more about choosing the right tool for the job.
Exactly. And as technology keeps advancing, we'll probably see even more ways to get things notarized.
So stay informed, stay adaptable. Earlier, we were talking about some of the more unique documents this mobile service handles. Things like declarations of common law union and those travel consent forms.
Oh, yeah, those are interesting. Let's dive into those a bit more.
Let's start with the common law union thing.
Okay, those are fascinating because they really show how relationships and legal recognition are evolving.
How so?
Well, in some states, couples can establish a common law marriage without a formal ceremony.
Really? Just by living together?
It depends on the state's specific requirements, but yes, living together, presenting yourselves as married, things like that.
Interesting. So these declarations are a way for those couples to officially document their relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And potentially solidify their common law marriage status.
I see. And having it notarized adds that extra layer of legitimacy.
It can be crucial for things like inheritance rights, insurance benefits, even hospital visitation rights.
Say they're taking steps to protect themselves and their relationship even without that traditional marriage certificate.
Precisely. Now, those travel consent forms, those are usually used when a minor is traveling with only one parent or a guardian who isn't their legal custodian.
Makes sense. So for international travel or even domestic trips where a child isn't with both parents.
Exactly. It's all about avoiding complications. It shows airlines, border agents, anyone who might ask that the child's travel is legitimate.
It's about peace of mind and having that clear paper trail.
Absolutely. Just in case there are any questions about the child's well-being or who has the legal right to travel with them.
It sounds like these are just two examples of how mobile notary services can help with specific needs and provide some legal reassurance.
It's about making sure important documents are handled correctly and that everyone involved is protected.
And it reminds us that the world of notarization is constantly changing.
Adapting to new technologies, new ways of life.
This mobile notary service is a perfect example of that.
Absolutely.
We've covered a lot today. Analyzed this mobile notary service, talked about the bigger trends in the field, explored some unique use cases.
We have. But before we wrap up, I want to touch on something that's been a recurring theme throughout this whole deep dive.
Okay. What's that?
Access.
Access to legal services. You mean how these mobile services make it easier for people to get the legal help they need?
Exactly. It's a big deal. We've gone from that formal office setting to something much more approachable.
And it makes you think, what else could we do to make the legal system more user-friendly, more accessible for everyone?
It's a great question. Think about people who struggle to access traditional legal services.
People in rural areas, folks with disabilities.
Yeah.
Maybe people who don't speak English?
Exactly. Or imagine someone working long hours who can't take time off for a legal appointment.
Could a mobile legal service help them?
I think it has the potential.
Yeah.
And technology could be a game changer. We're already seeing virtual consultations becoming more common.
That's true. And there are companies working on platforms that automate simple legal tasks,
making them more affordable and easier to use. The key is to make sure these innovations are accurate, secure, and ethical.
Right. We don't want to sacrifice quality for convenience.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance, making legal services more accessible without compromising on the professionalism and integrity of the field.
It's a conversation that's just getting started. As technology changes and our needs evolve, we'll probably see even more creative solutions.
Definitely. This is just the beginning.
This has been a really thought-provoking deep dive. We started with a specific mobile notary service, but ended up talking about some really big ideas.
It's amazing how those small details can lead to bigger questions.
I hope this has given you some useful information about mobile notary services.
And maybe spark some curiosity about how the legal landscape is changing.
It's all about making legal processes more accessible and equitable for everyone.
That's a goal worth striving for.
I think that's a great place to leave it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We've been talking about this mobile notary service in Eastern North Carolina and how it really highlights the changing world of notarization. And, you brought up a really interesting point earlier about access to legal services becoming more convenient.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how things have shifted. We've gone from, the traditional image of a notary in a stuffy office to someone meeting you right at your kitchen table or even, like you said, a hospital bedside.
Exactly. It makes you think, what other parts of the legal system could benefit from this mobile on-demand approach? Like, what if we could make the whole legal process more user-friendly and easier to access for everyone?
That's a great question to consider. Think about all the people who struggle to access those traditional legal services,
Yeah.
Maybe they live in rural areas, far away from any law firms, or they have mobility issues that make it hard to get around.
Right, or maybe they face language barriers.
Exactly. Or even just think about someone who works long hours and can't afford to take time off for a legal consultation.
Yeah, that's a good point. Could a mobile legal service help bridge that gap, offer a more flexible option?
I think it has the potential, and technology could really play a huge role in making that happen. We're already seeing virtual legal consultations becoming more popular.
Right, and some companies are even developing platforms that automate those simple legal tasks, making them more affordable and easier to use.
Exactly. But the key is to make sure that these innovations are done right,
Yeah.
We need to prioritize accuracy, security, and ethical considerations. We don't want to cut corners just for the sake of convenience.
Absolutely. We need to make sure people are still getting quality legal advice and services, even if it's not in a traditional setting.
Right. It's all about finding that balance between accessibility and maintaining the integrity of the legal field.
A balancing act for sure. And it's an ongoing conversation. As technology keeps developing and society's needs change, we'll likely see even more creative approaches to legal services emerge.
Definitely. We're just at the beginning of this evolution.
This has been a really thought-provoking deep dive. We started by analyzing one specific mobile notary service, but ended up talking about some really big ideas about the future of legal services and access to justice.
It's amazing how those small details can lead to such profound insights if you're willing to look deeper.
So to everyone listening, I hope this deep dive has not only been informative about mobile notary services, but has also made you curious about how technology is shaping the legal world around us.
And maybe it's even inspired you to think about ways we can make legal processes more accessible and equitable for everyone.
That's a great point to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.